Wow. Good morning, Web Summit. All right, there we go. You can give yourselves a round of applause. Big round of applause for the team behind stage. Brian Tobin's back there working hard. Patty Cosgrave, Web Summit crew. So good to see you all. My name is Jordan French with Grit Daily. I'm going to introduce the panelists really quickly so we can have a sit. Anis Gouzzaman is with us. Pegasus Tech Ventures has some really cool news. It's a really cool startup that you all know that he's invested in. We'll bring that up. You can stay seated either way. Gouzelle, lovely Gouzelle Ishmatova is with us. She's with L'Oreal Ventures. She has perhaps a bit of news she might share. Tease us. You can have a seat too. And last but not least, Duncan Mcintyre is with us, the man behind the plan at Delivery Hero, now DX Ventures. Have a seat.
Thank you.
Duncan, fantastic to see you all. We're all excited to be here. And what a great talk by Tim Draper, right? Give it up. Tim's still backstage. Give it up for Tim. Tim's awesome. He's like an institution. Gouzelle, we'll start with you. Fashionably, there are a lot of assumptions about corporate VC, and one of those is what feels like the straitjacket that you're in, that you might only invest in specific things that are so directly tied to your adherent parent company that it doesn't make sense to pitch you. But that's not quite the case.
No. Hi, everyone, first of all. L'Oreal is a strategic venture fund. At the same time, you would expect us to invest only in the cosmetic brands, but we will surprise you. It's not the case. We go further. We think we're passionate about beauty, and we're trying to understand what will be the future of beauty. And the future of beauty is also sustainability. It's sustainable. That's why we've made a minority investment in water tech solution to help change the world in that sense. We also think the future of beauty is unpredictable. It's very digital, so we've made the investment in the social selling solutions to help the brands to connect directly with the consumers. And we've made an investment, which I'm going to tease you a little bit right now, in the printing space, let's say, where we didn't close the deal yet, but it's coming. And it's something in Asia and in the printing space, and you can imagine what can be the link.
Perfect. All the media here can pepper you with trying to understand what that is and tease it out. I'm sure we'll hear soon enough, but congrats to that startup that you invested in, and congrats on that deal. I've always been a fan of the 3D printing space myself. And to dispel further myths, all of us up here, I got a lot of questions at Grit Daily about this panel. Like, who are these people? And it's a monolith, right? Like, they're all just VCs and they're all the same. That's not quite true either. Anis, you do something quite different than Duncan and Gouzelle. Could you explain what is the apparatus that is Pegasus Tech Ventures?
So we're a venture capital fund in Silicon Valley, but we do something called VC as a service. So we manage funds for many corporations. We actually manage funds for 35 large corporations today. We're managing 30 funds in parallel with a total asset size of $1.7 billion. And we invest in companies, in startups that our corporation want us to invest. So they give us the areas of interest. They tell us what type of companies they would like to partner with. So when we give capital to the startups, we make sure that we not only give the capital, but we also give you an MOU so that you have a relationship with the corporation that is originally funding us. So it's a great win-win situation for the startup, where they not only get the capital, but they also get the money, also get the additional support from the corporations. So it's like a smart money in some sense.
And speaking of smart money, for 35 corporations to hand your team money to invest in this way, $1.7 billion, you must be doing something really well. How many unicorns, we're all thinking in the audience, how many unicorns are in this portfolio now?
So we have invested in more than 200 companies so far, and we have 20 unicorns in our portfolio right now. And many of them, I made seed investments, and they turned into a unicorn in no time.
You said 30, just for the record.
20 unicorns.
Okay, 20. Well, congrats on that, Anis.
Thank you.
It's stellar performance here. Big round of applause for Anis. Crushing it. And we'll get back to you on one of those companies. I teased it earlier, but we'll have to wait for that. And speaking of performance, Duncan Mcintyre is with us. For those who don't know his backstory, he was a CSO, Chief Strategy Officer at Delivery Hero, where they cobbled together a huge number of acquisitions that led him to his position today. If you could just walk us through that. How many companies did you acquire at Delivery Hero under your leadership, Duncan? In part, of course, it's a team, before you started DX.
Yeah, so thanks for that introduction there, and good morning, everyone. So yeah, I was over about a period of 7 years, we probably did around about 100 different transactions. So in the food delivery market, there was a lot of buying and selling and kind of growth through acquisition. So it was a lot of different companies that were kind of rolled up into Delivery Hero. And yeah, we today operate in 50 different countries. So it's quite a large global platform now.
And when you say 50 different countries, we in the audience, we're thinking that's a lot of perhaps data that you have out there, perhaps some advantages. Can you speak to that?
Yeah, so look, one of the exciting things with corporate VCs at the moment is the ability to understand a lot of different consumer trends, right, in many, many different markets. So we see data on what different consumers are buying. We've moved now very much not just from food delivery, but also into the delivery of groceries and quick commerce area. So there's a lot of very interesting kind of trends that we're able to have access and insight onto. And that's probably like one of the main purposes of DX Ventures, is to be at the forefront of gathering some of the information that's going on in very early stage industries and areas, and be able to make investments in exciting companies based on that kind of insight that we have.
Yeah, certainly. Speaking of insights, there's a second edge to that same sword, Gouzelle, and if you could unpack this for us. For earlier stage companies, some of them are a bit concerned about perhaps revealing too much information. Corporates who are much larger, right, are much better capitalized, so goes the argument. What's your response to that, Gouzelle, that concern that some in the audience still do have?
Well, I think corporates can bring a lot of value to the startups. I think there are three main points where there is a direct value. First of all, is geographical presence. I agree with Duncan that as a corporate VC, you're normally present in the more countries, and you can have, if you today your business is, you're operating business in the US, but you want to enter in China, you'd rather have someone on your board who is already operating in China and knowing all of the ins and outs. And I think this is a great value which the global VC, as a corporate VC, can bring. Second thing, I think it's also the patience, because especially pandemic showed that the strategic investors and the corporate VCs normally are more patient versus the pure financial investors, I would say. And also it's all about the smart money, as we said, but the expertise. I don't know, L'Oreal been around since 1907, so we do know how to operate beauty, and we know the consumer. And it's not the first crisis we've been through during the pandemic, so I think this kind of the expertise of the industry also brings lots of value to startups.
Sure, and there's a lot to work with there, but you mentioned the word patience, and I'd like to drill down on that, because that rings in our ears. We're wondering, what exactly do you mean by that?
Again, there is different structures of the corporate VCs. L'Oreal is the strategic VC, so we invest long term. We are ready to wait for results. We are ready to bet on the founders to deliver. And for us, sustainability is a key subject, for example, and we invested in few biotech companies which will be bringing the solution to the market in 2025 and 2030. So we are ready to wait for that. We are ready to support with our expertise and the governance and platform. We can help them to be sure that this will come to the market. And I think patience is, I felt it during the pandemic. I don't know, guys, how you felt on your side, but as a corporate, we don't need to raise money again, like immediately. So it makes it simpler to say, okay, maybe we'll wait and then we'll see how the portfolio performs.
And certainly, I think that's a clear delineation and worth mentioning. And speaking of the market over the last 18 months, patience dovetails into that very well, Anis. One thing that's been a specter out there for startups is that deal terms perhaps have shifted. Perhaps one element is that VCs generally are more patient, and corporates are known to be, as Gouzelle established, nice foundation there. What's your take on the changes in deal terms over the last 18 months?
So things are changing, but at the same time, like as Gouzelle was mentioning, that when it becomes a corporate VC, it's more about I want to work with you. right? I want to cooperate with you. I want to help you grow. It's about how you bring value to the startup, right? The corporations, actually, they have the mentality that, the deal, it can be a minor investment. It doesn't need to be a major investment. But at the end of the day, they are willing to work with the startup. They're going to go through if it is an engineering company or a technology company, they're going to go through the engineering process. They're going to go through the POC. There will be a deployment period. And they will, in the process, I have seen that most of the corporations, they're ready to put money multiple times. I have invested in the same company 8-9 times already, because the corporations behind the scene is ready to put that money in because they see a relationship growing in some sense. So it's kind of like working together rather than just an investment in some sense.
Certainly, and speaking of relationship, to hinge on that word, we're all just so curious, since you're probably seeing a lot of deal flow yourself. You have a lot of capital to deploy. 35 different clients, that's like having 35 delivery heroes and L'Oreals. How are they approaching you? Are they asking you, just as an example, we're looking to maybe acquire, how can you help us do that? Or is it something else, Anis?
So they want to acquire at the end of the day. That is always the goal, that if we make a minor investment, a few $1 million, maybe $10-20 million, and at the end of the day, when they work with the startup and the startup is doing well, they always make that offer that we're ready to work with you more closely. Are you ready, or are you ready to join us in some sense? So there is an M&A part of it at the end of the day, but they start with minor investments so that they can create a working culture with the startup in some sense.
It sounds like then that is a pretty consistent goal. Just to repeat that back to you so we all understand.
Yes.
That does sound like generally it's an end goal, or at least some strategic apparatus that paves its way into that. And thank you. And so back to Duncan, back to the plot arc of delivery here now. DX Ventures, you had a fresh fund, pulled $60 million into it. It wasn't that long ago, January. Everyone should just pitch you now, right? You have plenty of capital still to work with. It was only a few months ago, right, Duncan?
It's very true. No, I think the point that you're getting to here is we've already deployed the capital this year. So we've done a lot of transactions. There's a lot of really interesting startups that have reached out. So it's been a great start to the fund. But we're now raising more capital from next year. So we'll have a lot of capital available to deploy. So yeah, we're very keen to learn about interesting new startups. So please reach out. Definitely keen.
But they shouldn't reach out now. We're listening very closely and hearing each word. We should reach out. When will your fund be replenished, or Fund 2 perhaps?
Fund 2 will be from the start of next year. But no, we're able to warehouse deals at the moment for the next fund. So we definitely have capital, and we definitely they should be reaching out, and we're still looking to do investments. I mean the venture capital landscape it's really accelerated in the last year, and so we were able to deploy the capital really quickly because there's just been a lot of really exciting founders and businesses that have been growing really quickly. Certainly,
we can set that aside for just a moment, talking about exciting founders to invest in. Duncan, but on this deal term topic, because I got so many questions about this, and it's on everyone's mind, what shift have you seen at DX Ventures, perhaps a loosening or a tightening in some ways of what that term sheet looks like?
It's a really good point, and I think there's been a bit of a stigma around corporate VCs in the past where there has to be onerous terms, or there's some kind of M&A angle, or it's not very friendly to have a strategic on board, or potentially getting a strategic on board or a corporate VC on board will somehow make it more difficult to raise funds in the future. And what we've seen, particularly at DX Ventures, but across the industry, is it's changing very, very rapidly. So the terms that we offer startups and founders are basically the same as any other venture capital firm. We're very friendly in terms of founders because at the end of the day, they're creating the value, right? So they're the people that we're backing, and we want to make sure that they have the best terms to be able to build their business. So that has changed quite dramatically, I would say, in the last couple of years.
Yep, certainly, and as part of the value proposition, and I'll go to you, Gouzelle, on this, and we'll go to Anis with Startup World Cup, but first you, Gouzelle, it's known that L'Oreal is quite interactive. There's a lot of value you can add besides money. Can you share some of the specific things that the company does that from a structural and sort of advice standpoint?
I also agree with Duncan that the term sheets has evolved, and at the beginning the founders were afraid, or maybe they would think, okay, how I'm going to raise the second round. But to be honest, now the world has changed. They all want to have smart people at the board and had the advantage to them to scale the company. And on our side, we also try to be very competitive in terms of with the VC, classic VCs and terms. And we also facilitate the signing of the commercial partnerships. We are a powerhouse of brands, so we have more than 50 brands at L'Oreal, so we sign the commercial partnership with our tech solutions and the companies we invest in. We open our corporates and they can have a conversation within the group because we strongly believe that's the value we bring and this will help the founders to scale. But my advice over here, I always ask, what do you expect from us? Because it should be a proactive position from the founders as well. What do you expect from the corporate? How can we help you? But then it's up to the founder to go and take it as well.
What I'm hearing, just to repeat this back to you, is that once you sign a deal with L'Oreal, you hardly need a sales team. You'll walk them right into various brands under the umbrella and align distribution. Is that a fair representation of how some of these deals unfurl?
If it's a tech solution, yes. If it's innovation, yes as well. If it's a brand due to their legal limitations, it's harder.
And why specifically is it harder?
Because no, competitive law, like there is a limitation about that where we, as a brand, therefore we also from out of 8 investments, we invested only in 1 brand so far. And because we also look at how we can bring the value of the best.
And I had some questions that were directed toward you specifically, so I'll ask one of them now. And that was about tech, which you just mentioned. Everyone's so curious, what tech is L'Oreal looking for?
Good question. Everything around e-commerce. So guys, if anyone out here has a great new solution to bring the e-commerce efficiency up, that's what we are looking at. We like also beauty tech, anything driven with a device, and how can we build the augmented product. Today, you know, shampoos, lipsticks, I don't know, creams, but tomorrow you have a diagnostic, you have devices which drive the efficacy of the topical product. So that's kind of things we're looking at.
Sure, and if I forget later, I know we're down to 1 minute, and we'll go to you, Anis, in just a moment. But reach everyone through the Web Summit app. You all actually using the Web Summit app? Make sure, nod your heads. Yeah, reach Gouzelle that way. That's your way she's going to announce her email on stage here. But very friendly crew. Pitch away. For Duncan, just wait until January until they have that fundraise. Unless you want to get the material in now so his team has a chance to review. Anis, I'm going to give you the last word. It's a really fun investment that I think practically everyone knows here. If you could unpack that for us, I'll let you take it away.
So my recent investment, impact investment. So I made an investment in Spacex, which is one of the largest, satellite rocket exploration company, space exploration company, and I invested in Spacex because they are doing Starlink, the next generation satellite-based internet, and it is going to change our life forever. We'll have no longer, internet that is based on optical fiber, but there will be 12,000 satellites rotating around the world, and it will create the next generation internet and change our life forever. And I invested in SpaceX multiple times, and I'm proud of it. Thank you.
And we know from earlier that you're investing on behalf of others. So we're so curious who would want you to invest in SpaceX on their behalf, potentially for an acquisition, which again we established earlier. Sounds like it'd be a big acquisition. If you want to share it, you can. Otherwise,
I think I cannot share that now, but
perfect.
Thank you very much.
Thanks. That's all the time that we have. Hope you enjoyed this talk. My name is Jordan French with Grit Daily News. And Anis Uzzaman, thanks you so much,
Thank you very much
for joining us. Gouzelle Ishmatova and Duncan Mcintyre. Until next time,
Thanks,
thank you,
guys.
Web Summit.